All right, greetings everybody, and welcome to week number 4. That is right, week number 4 of your 7314 class, which is your reference class. As always, I'm your professor, Dr. Jace K. Austin, and what we are going to do this week is we are going to do our standard state of the course update, like we always do, and then after our state of the course update, what we're going to do is I'm going to introduce you to what I consider the Googles of the databases, specifically Academic Search Complete / Academic Search Premier, and also JSTOR. These two databases have basic search functions, and they are databases that cover a wide variety a wide variety of topics, and that's why I consider them the Googles of the databases. So we're going to go ahead and get those in and pop in a moment here. I'm not actually going to be giving y'all a tutorial of the databases. This is more so an introduction, what you use them for in their basic search functions and that sort of thing. So it will be an introduction on how to use the databases, but it's not going to be exactly like a quote-unquote tutorial. If you want a tutorial, there will be some in the databases themselves, and then you can find them on YouTube and things like that. Just Google around and you'll find plenty, okay? All right, so with that said, let's go ahead and jump into it, and let's go ahead and get that state of the course update going. Pause. All right, so as far as state of the course update is concerned, of course, the main thing that you need to know is right here. Actually, let's click out of some of these. Now, right here, the main thing that you need to know is that you do have the virtual reference practice paper going on that is going to be due this coming Sunday. If you have not gotten up with your partner, you are late as far as that is concerned. Go ahead and get up with your partner and make sure you make time to go ahead and do your interactions very quickly at this point so that you can go ahead and get that assignment done and upload it into the assignment portal. So yeah, go ahead and meet with your partner, have your reference interviews and that sort of thing, and then do your paper and reflection and turn that in. So make sure that you have all your ducks in a row to get that done this Sunday. I am looking forward to your submissions. Make sure, for one thing, that you do proper APA. I mentioned that in the check-in video last week. I also mentioned it in announcements. Oh, let me also say that, excuse me for a second here. All right, so yeah, let me also say a few other things here. First of all, yes, I know that I have it in the prompt, but there's some, and I've also got some of these things in the announcements, but please just don't do them. First of all, do not do a question and answer, a Q&A formatted paper. Do your paper as essay style. Question and answer is very, very lazy, okay? And I need to know that you have the ability to actually, instead of just respond to questions, I need to know that you can actually write an actual document. That's something that you're going to be having to do as a librarian as well. You're going to have to write things, and you're going to have to write them from start to finish and have segues and that sort of thing. So if you're doing Q&A style, I don't really have a way to gauge if you have the ability to do that. And there are certain things that I need you to be able to do these certain things in order to graduate. ALA wants you to be able to do them. I want you to be able to do them. Your future employers want you to be able to do them, and that's the most important thing. So yes, you will need to do them. Another thing is, yes, it is okay to write in first person. I don't when it is appropriate. I don't know where. I know that it happens, so I'm not blaming you all. A lot of people are told incorrectly at some point, maybe in K-12, maybe in undergrad, they're told incorrectly that they cannot use first person in academic writing or informal writing, and that is absolutely not true. I did my dissertation partially in first person, and really qualitative research and qualitative writing a lot of times does need to be done in first person. It is your perspective. So if I see you all doing things like the student did this, or the such and such, the librarian did this, and you're referring to yourself and you're doing it in this third person, or even writing your name, and then let's say your name is John Smith, and then John Smith responded to his partner and John Smith is you. No, don't do that. Just do the first person, okay? You can do first person. It is totally fine. And then also, yes, you need to have sources. I've had several of you actually email me or contact me asking how many sources, and my answer to that is that you all are in grad school, okay? So it's not about meeting a source quota. If you have this mindset of meeting a source quota, you would never be able to do anything like a thesis or a dissertation, because those things don't have source quotas attached to them. You just incorporate how many sources you need in order to make your point and get your message together. Okay, so in grad school, we don't do this, so you have to have 10 sources sort of thing. You just need to have the amount of sources that you need in order to actually complete the assignment. That could be 2 sources. If all you need is 2 sources to support what you are saying and putting out there, that is fine. If you need 5 or 10 or whatever, that is also fine. But to be honest with you, I think, and I'm having grace on y'all, and I know that I'm probably the first class for a lot of you in this program. I will say that there's potential to even kind of annoy graduate school professors by asking them how many sources you need. And I'm not saying you annoy me. I'm not saying that. So you all, by all means, continue to reach out to me. That is no problem. But what I'm saying is, for some of your other professors, they might get annoyed if you're in grad school and you are asking them how many sources you need, because they've all gone through thesis and dissertation processes, and so they know that in graduate school what you're doing is you are using the amount of sources you need to convey the message, whether that is 2 or 2,000. Okay, and certainly I had a few hundred sources in my dissertation. Can't remember now how many I even had in my thesis, but suffice it to say I had the amount of sources needed to get the job done. All right, so yeah, enough of that. You've got a rubric here. Please pay attention to that rubric, and that does include, yes, you will be evaluated partially on your APA abilities. So yes, make sure that you are doing your APA properly, please, and thank you. Okay. I think that is it for that. Let's go back out here. There are a few other state of the course things that we need to mention really quickly. First of all, the semester long project is now available. So the semester long project, I told you all in the first sync session, that first week, that you all would have the semester long project that you would need to turn in. That is now available. We have 10 weeks left in class. I'm recording this on September the 16th, and that semester long project is not due until December the 12th. So you've got plenty of time. If you pace yourself at 4 questions per week, you will get it done in time. But I will also say you don't have to pace yourself at 4 questions per week. If you want to do 8 questions per week or whatever it takes to kind of get it out of the way early, you are certainly welcome to do that. Okay. This is a go at your own pace sort of thing, but I want to remind you all that before I took the course over, it was something that the students only got about a 2-week period to do with the previous professor who owned this course, and it has changed a lot since I took over the course many years ago. That document has changed a lot, and in addition to it changing a lot, sorry, I got all these eyelashes going in my eye. In addition to the assignment changing a lot, I will also say that the due date or the amount of time that you have to complete the assignment. I think I mentioned this that first night, but I just want to reiterate it. The previous instructor used to only give 2 weeks, and then I got a bunch of complaints about the 2 weeks time limit on the in my teaching evaluations that first semester, and so I did change it into a semester-long project. There's no reason why you shouldn't be able to work on that throughout the semester, okay? All right, so I think, let me pause and make sure that's it for the state of the course update. Hold on. Okay, and yeah, not really anything else that we need to be concerned about with the state of the course update. You all are doing fine in the discussion board prompts and that sort of thing. We also don't have another major assignment due until October the 19th, so we're fine there. And then also, I will make note of this since it is coming up on the horizon, but we still got a couple weeks, like about 2 weeks left. But on September the 30th, we will have a sync session, and that's going to be with Mary Ann Curtis, and Mary Ann is going to talk about just reference services and that sort of thing related to teaching in the K-12, or being a librarian, I should say, I'm sorry, being a librarian in the K-12 realm, okay? And Mary Ann really, I think I've said this before, she really enjoys coming to the class. So by all means, please be here and please be ready and please have plenty of questions for Mary Ann because she loves that. And again, Mary Ann is somebody who, she loves her job and she loves talking to you all. So I think you all are going to find her to be a treat. All right, let's put all that aside. We are done with the state of the course update. So let's go ahead and look at those databases. All right, so first let me do a little spiel here before I go ahead and show you all these two databases. The little spiel that I want to just share with you all really quickly is just to say that one thing that kind of upsets people who come out of library school, well, first of all, let me say this. Throughout your librarian career, you're going to hear a lot of this. You're going to hear a lot of people saying, well, they didn't teach us that in library school. Now, there is a lot to librarianship. Librarianship is probably the ultimate interdisciplinary profession. It just is. And so there is a lot that we would have to teach you in library school if we were going, if we were going to teach you everything. It's just not possible. So there is a lot more than we want to teach, that we would want to teach you if we could, but we only have you really for 39 or 40 hours, okay? 40 hours of classwork. Now, with that said, you will not be able to just graduate from a library school program and be competent on a reference desk. That's just not how it works. And I know that students, sometimes they feel cheated, or young professionals, they feel cheated. They're like, okay, well, I went to library school and it didn't totally prepare me for working in the library. I still have to do this on the job training. Yes, unfortunately, that's how it goes. For one thing, yes, education isn't job training necessarily, okay? Education can include job training, but it's not just job training. So that's one thing to be aware of. But let me also remind you all that I have very varied reference experiences as far as I've been a reference librarian at a community college. I've been a reference librarian at an R1. I've been a reference librarian at a comprehensive teaching institution. And I've been a reference librarian at a public library, and none of those jobs were anything alike, really. I mean, they had some overlap, but what I dealt with in the R1 was a lot different from what I dealt with on the reference desk at the public library, and that was a lot different from what I dealt with at the community college library, so forth and so on. But what I'm saying is, because deliverance of reference is different everywhere you go, there's no way to just teach you all how to perform reference. And I say this as somebody who has been around for a while. Just know I've been around for a while. I've been teaching reference for a while. I've been in communication with reference librarians for a long time, and I have a lot of experience seeing a lot of things. And so I can tell you, no program, no ALA accredited program at all just graduates you ready to work any reference desk. It's just not possible to do. So you can learn some of the foundations of reference and that sort of thing, but you are really going to hit your stride through the on-the-job training that you get that makes you successful at that particular place that you are working, okay? So I say that to say that there's going to be a need to be flexible and adapt to the place that you're working at any particular time. And when you get a new job, like let's say you go to your second librarian job and it's a reference librarian job at a different library, you're going to have to learn what the most common resources are there. You're going to need to learn what the most common questions are, who your frequent patrons are, and you're going to have to reacquaint yourself with different resources and learn different resources that are more used at that library as opposed to the library that you just came from. So every library just kind of has that dynamic going on, okay? And so it's impossible for me to just teach the course and have you be like, okay, now I know reference and I'll go do reference anywhere. That's just not how it works. But what I can do is, and what I'll be doing throughout the semester, is I will be covering resources that tend to be used at academic, or not really even, I'm not prioritizing academic. The resources that I'll be showing are resources that you'll be seeing at academic and at public and at K-12 libraries, but they're going to be things that are heavily used either at the public or the K-12 library, and then the academic library may or may not use them heavily. The reason I'm doing it that way is because the unassignments that you all did, they were focused on resources that Mizzou actually had. So they were focused on academic library resources by default, and I had to do it that way because you had to be able to access the things that I told you to use. And then also the semester-long project is concentrated more so on academic library resources because, again, it has to go by things that you all actually are able to use. And I don't know what you all's individual public libraries have available. Okay, so I hope that makes sense. But because of that, I try to cover things with these videos throughout the semester. I will be going over things that a lot of times are available in public libraries and even primarily used in public libraries. And so certainly that's going to be the case with Academic Search Complete and with JSTOR to a lesser extent. But I'll explain what I mean with that with JSTOR. But first, let's get into Academic Search Premier / Academic Search Complete. And the first thing that I actually want to tell you all is that this is basically the same database. So this confuses students a lot, and so this is something that I'm going to bring up at this time so that you all kind of have an understanding of what's going on, and then you are not confused. So Academic Search Premier and Academic Search Complete, a lot of veteran librarians, including myself, we tend to use those terms interchangeably. And the reason for that, and it does trip students up, they'll be like, well, you said use Academic Search Premier. We have Academic Search Complete. Is that similar? Is that the same thing? And then the librarians were usually like, oh yeah, sorry about that, blah, 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 blah. And we explain what the difference is. So really what the difference is that Academic Search Complete is a higher tier of the same database that Academic Search Premier is. So with Academic Search Premier, you get most of the information. You get most of the resources that are available that are put into the database, but then they do tier it off, and there's a second higher tier, Academic Search Complete, where you get quote unquote everything. It's complete. And that's a little more expensive, but a lot of libraries, including Mizzou, are okay with using Academic Search Premier because they also run pretty good interlibrary loan services, and so the things that you don't have the full text access to in Academic Search Premier that you might have had that full text access to in Academic Search Complete, you can still interlibrary loan those things that are not appearing in the database. So that is kind of the logic behind that. Okay. All right, so with that said, let's go ahead and get into it, and I will again tell you why I see Academic Search Premier as, or Academic Search Complete, if you will, as the Google of the databases. Okay, I'm gonna pause this while it's loading. All right, so once you get into Academic Search Premier, you're gonna end up in one of the typical EBSCO designs here, and for those of you who are not aware, EBSCO actually changed its look after, I would say, nearly 20 years, because EBSCO had that blue look to it for 20 years. You all probably remember the blue look in the automatic 3 screens defaulting into, or the automatic 3 fields defaulting into advanced search and that sort of thing. EBSCO has done away with that, and I don't like the way the new design looks, so I'm still kind of navigating through it, but it's not worse. It's just that when you have something for 20 years, you just kind of get used to it. But here's the thing with Academic Search Complete / Academic Search Premier, the benefit is that you get all sorts of topics in here, but that also makes the database a little unfocused. So what I mean by that is you do have databases that are focused on particular disciplines, right? You have CINAHL, and that's focused on nursing. You have PsycInfo, and that is focused on psychology. You have Business Source Complete, which is focused on business and economics and that sort of thing. You get the idea. Well, those databases, when you search those, then like let's say, for instance, and I can't recall right at the moment the name of EBSCO's religion database, but let's say that you were searching for, Jerry Falwell, and you searched for Jerry Falwell in the religion database specifically. That is when you get things that would be more focused on what he did as far as religion and those sorts of things, his sermons, his philosophies, whatever. If you were to search Jerry Falwell, however, in Academic Search Complete, you would not just get stuff about how he approached religion, but you would get stuff about how he approached politics, and also stuff about his a lawsuit against Hustler magazine and that sort of thing. So you would get a lot of information in Academic Search Complete that is just talking about the topic in all realms, whereas if you were to go to a specific subject database, then that same topic would bring back stuff that's more focused, and it's more focused on the particular topic that you are, on the particular thing that the database covers. So again, for instance, if you search Jerry Falwell through the religion database, then it's going to focus more on his imprint within American Christianity. Okay. So I'm going to show you just the basic functions here. So if you go into now Academic Search Premier in the new EBSCO design, it defaults on basic search, but I still like to do my advanced searches, and the old EBSCO actually did used to default into advanced search. But here's what the advanced search looks like, and you can add rows if you need to, but you can just string search terms together. You do have filters here, including you can limit by full text, so you can return things that are only going to be accessible immediately in the database, and that can come in handy, especially when you're dealing with undergrads who are coming to you and they've got a paper that's due tomorrow and they just really need 10 sources really quick. Then you can click full text and you can get them the sources within the database. Scold them a little bit though and let them know, hey, they need to get going on their research earlier. Peer reviewed, you can limit to that. You can limit to publication date. Also, there are various document types, including you can get think you can get actually no, you cannot, but yeah, you can get articles, book chapters, book reviews, that sort of thing. Oh, that's what I was looking for. Okay, I was going to say you can limit the primary sources, but you would do that under publication type, not document type. Language, you can default it into English if you want, but it is going to prioritize, it just prioritizes English language things anyway in the United States, which is good. You have search options here. Proximity is pretty much what I do, but you can and you can learn about these. I'm not going to devote different time. I'm not going to devote video time and explain what each of these is. That's where, again, I have to make these videos also watchable, so I have to make them not too long. So yes, you can some of this you can look at for yourself, but you can find out what all these things mean on your own. Again, I just use it on proximity. Publications, I would pretty much probably just leave that alone unless you really are looking for a specific publication. And then you can, this is a neat feature with the redesign, you can look for subject terms. So let's say that, and I hate that I'm doing this, but I am going to use Donald Trump as my subject term. Oh, well. Okay. All right, so you can do that. And this is actually, well, this actually isn't as helpful as I was originally thinking it was going to be, because I thought that what you'd be able to do was just come in here and just search for, and just get, like, I'll show you an easier way to do this. Instead of just explaining this, I'll show you an easier way to do this. And in fact, what I'm also going to do is just also remind you all right now that searching is not linear. Okay, so I am actually not going to show you a linear search and then make you think that the searches are all going to be linear like that. They're not. Okay, so you're going to see me kind of have to backtrack in some of these videos and go back and that sort of thing. I think I mentioned that also in the when I was showing you all Journal Finder in a previous check-in video. So all right, let's go ahead and just do this. So let's say that I wanted to find Donald Trump, and let's say, I hate to do it, but immigration. First of all, know your truncation symbols, because those can be very, very helpful. So let's say you wanted to search for immigration and immigrants at the same time. You can actually use a truncation symbol, which is this, asterisk in the EBSCO databases, and then this will use this as a root word, and then it will search for everything from there that starts with that root word. So immigrant, immigrants, plural, immigration, anything that starts with this as the root, it will search that. So basically you truncated the word there. Okay, I'm going to leave these as I'll leave these as all fields, and I'll show you why. And I'll click search. We're just going to do this as a basic search here. Okay, and I'm going to show you, because what you're going to want to do as you are doing these types of searches is you're basically going to want to narrow your results down. You're going to want to get them focused and that sort of thing. So when I come up with 7,600 sources, that's too many for me to deal with right now, and so I need to refine this search in order to lower my number of results. So I have this, and this is not, again, this is not ideal. We want something a little more focused. So the first thing that we can do in order to narrow this down is we can recognize that this will mention anything that is talking about Donald Trump and immigra, but it doesn't necessarily have to be about those sorts of things. Basically what this is the keyword search. And so what we want to do, one of the first things we want to do in order to narrow our search is we want to go from that keyword to, let's say that we want things that deal specifically with immigrants or immigration, and it doesn't just mention these things, it's actually about these things. Well, what we can do is we can change our all fields or our keyword search to a subject search, okay? All right, and let's do that and see what it does. And it takes us down. I am so sick of seeing that. All right, come on, man. I've got it. Stop popping up. So you can see I went from 7,600 things to 4,800 things, but let's say that's still too much. We can do other things to try to narrow this down. So let's say that one thing we'll do here is put Donald Trump in quotation marks and search. So that didn't take us down a whole heck of a lot, okay? But let's then, well, let me show you a better way to do this from here. So we've gotten this right here, and then let's say that Donald Trump is showing up, but maybe these things aren't about Donald Trump either. What we can do is probably what we need to do if we're looking for things that are about Donald Trump is we can scroll down and let me see if I can find subject terms. Yeah, there we go. This is what I'm looking for right here. So we've got this, and we've got something that right now it is searching Donald Trump as a keyword, but let's see if we can find, and this is the way to do it, you can find Donald Trump and use him as a search term himself with controlled vocabulary. So when I talk about controlled vocabulary, what controlled vocabulary is it would be something like this, to where the database is actually recognizing a term. It's recognizing that term, and it's going to basically aggregate a lot of things under this term. So controlled vocabulary prevents you from having to do multiple searches with multiple different things. So let's say that sometimes Donald Trump is just written as Donald Trump, sometimes it's written as Donald J. Trump, sometimes it's written as Donald John Trump, whatever the case may be. And instead of having to play with the vocabulary every time, which you can just use and do different vocabulary every time, if you have the controlled vocabulary, that allows you to just do one search, and the one search is going to look for all of those little terms there. So we can click this and start a new search. So I'm going to, and you can actually even copy and paste that, which is what I'm going to do here, and I'm going to show you what I'm doing that too. So you can copy. And now I'm going to do a new search. I'm going to leave this, then I'm going to replace this with that. And doing this would be the same as if I didn't have doing this would be the same as this, basically. So let me show you this. I can take that PE off and then come over here. This is the same thing, folks, okay? So that's how you use your controlled vocabulary there. And then if I click the search from here, okay, I've still got a lot, but now you can see that I've gone from 40, I think I was at 4,300 things, and now I'm at 3,700 things. Everything here is going to deal specifically with Donald Trump and with immigration as subjects. So it's not just going to casually mention those things. It is actually, quote unquote, about those things. Now from here, we can probably, first of all, if you wanted to, you can, like a lot of times undergrads will also want like the newest stuff. You can do newest first and that sort of thing, but I would still leave it at relevance for most things. But what you can do from here we've still got to narrow this down a little bit. So let's say that we want it to focus up a little bit. We can use our filters here and come back. So a lot of times when you're dealing with something like this, a lot of times narrowing by date is something that will help. So a lot of, especially if you're dealing with students, high school students, middle school students, undergraduates, that sort of thing, a lot of times they are being told you need to have something that is from the past 5 years. Okay, so you can click that. Then let's say also, they might tell you that, again, you might decide, hey, since there's so many things coming back, I don't want to mess with interlibrary loan. Only give me stuff that has the full text in the database, okay? And then you can possibly look at some other things. We're not going to worry about NAICS codes. That has nothing to do with what we're doing right now. Geography, I'll leave alone. English, I'll even leave alone. Company, publisher, publication. For the rest of these things, honestly, I would still just leave them in play. So I'll apply these filters here. But that's good. That took me from 3,700 things to just 495, 500 things. This is manageable. Now we're in a situation where we can kind of go through and find the things that we actually need. And so what I'm going to do from here is I'm just going to find something that we could actually use. This is another neat kind of new feature with the redesign of EBSCO, is that you can click on these access options so you can get full text online or the PDF. But let's go in here. So once you actually locate something that you want, then there's going to be some additional details in the database record, and you can use those to further determine whether or not this is actually going to be something that's going to be helpful. One of the things that is very helpful to do, I would say, is to look at the abstract. The abstract you have right here. An abstract is typically a 1 to 3 paragraph summary of the article's contents. And the reason why the abstract is so helpful is because, yes, you don't want to read some articles in academic journals. They can be hundreds of pages long, over 100 pages long. Even this looks like we were dealing with, I believe that this is actually, I don't know. I don't know what Descent is. If you want to learn more about the publication, then you can click the publication name and go in there. So I do believe this is actually a journal and not, oh yeah, peer-reviewed academic journal. So I was like, I don't know if Descent is a journal or a magazine, but you got that information right there if you ever need to know. Peer-reviewed journal right there, okay? So yes, we can go back. So we know that this is a peer-reviewed journal article within one. We've got our author there. You can see this is 7 pages. So for journal articles, 7 pages isn't that much, but for like a high school or middle school student, that still might be too much for them. So that's why you have to be mindful of those things. If the abstract, word count is also something that can be very important, especially when you're dealing with people who have limited reading ability or limited time or things like that. So if the abstract makes it sound like this is something that's going to be useful to you, then go ahead and celebrate. Have yourself a lovely day. And what you can do, you have some options. First of all, as far as accessing, again, you can, a lot of people will just click the PDF. I'll pause while it's oh, there it is. I was going to say I pause while it's loading, but there we go. So let's click out of that. And I guess I'll turn my pages here. Yeah. And then scroll down there. So that's your PDF there. But you have options up here. You can download the PDF. You can print it out. So as far as saving it, this is where you would do. You can save the item here. This is where you would do that. You would need to save. You would need to create a free account in EBSCO in order to save within the database. Most people I know don't do that, but if you want to do that, go ahead. A lot of people just kind of download, keep folders. You can also share, send an email, that sort of thing, put in folders. We do have accessibility things, so you can listen to the article if you need to. So that's helpful. And then I don't know what they've added, a lot of accessibility support features, and I haven't had a chance to review all of them, so I don't know what they all do, so I apologize for that, okay? But yeah, so when you find something that's helpful, you can go ahead and download it and that sort of thing. I do want to show you all this as well really quickly. I want you all to be aware that these are computer generated citations, and so they are only accurate about 80% of the time. 80% might sound good, but and this one is wrong. If you watch the check-in video, you would know why this one is wrong. If you have not watched the check-in video, then you may not know. But you might want to find out. If you don't know why this is wrong, watch the check-in video where I talk about the 2 common APA mistakes. I'll leave it at that. But yeah, these are only right about 80% of the time, and that might sound good, but what that means is that if you do have a paper where you are citing 10 sources, there's a high possibility that if you're just copying and pasting from EBSCO, there's a high possibility that 2 of those 10 are wrong, because again, it's only right 80% of the time. So I would use this as a starting place, but I would certainly not rely on it. Okay, so you've got all that, and then from there, this should take me back out to the catalog record, and again, you have those same options right back here, and you can download from there as well. So that is how you would pull up these articles on Academic Search Complete / Academic Search Premier. And again, this is one of our Googles of the databases, and I'm going to show you the second Google of the databases really quick, which would be JSTOR, and then we will call it quits on this check-in video from there. So first, let me pause this while I pull up JSTOR. All right, so next we're going to go into my buddy JSTOR real quick. JSTOR is another Google of the databases in the sense that it covers a wide variety of topics. But JSTOR is a thing. We have a love-hate relationship with JSTOR in this particular profession, and I will tell you why as I go into JSTOR. So we are getting in there, and there we go. So JSTOR is great, okay, because JSTOR has a lot, and I do mean a lot of information in it, like a ton of information. It makes no sense how much information JSTOR has in it. Now, one of the rules about JSTOR, and one of the things that separates it from Academic Search Complete, is that JSTOR actually will not have new things in it for the most part. So Academic Search Complete, you can actually find stuff going way, way back in that, but Academic Search Complete can have stuff that was just published yesterday. Sometimes it will have newspaper articles that were just published a day or 2 before in there. So that's pretty neat, pretty convenient. Magazine articles, same, that sort of thing. Sometimes it takes a little while for them to get in there, but it can have some pretty new stuff in it. JSTOR by design doesn't have, with a few exceptions, because you can search it and prove me wrong. You can say, hey, Dr. Jason, I found this. But for the most part, JSTOR does not have anything newer than 3 years old in it, okay? JSTOR is supposed to be basically a dumping ground for older things. And so, yes, you're not really going to find many things that were published in the last 3 years in JSTOR, but I've seen things that were published in the 1600s in JSTOR. So we can go back hundreds of years, but we are going back for the most part at least 3 years of this database. But otherwise, things work largely the same as how they do in Academic Search Premier. But I am going to show you also that the searches in JSTOR are very weak. So you have to have a lot of patience with JSTOR as well. So the searches are not as strong and precise as what you're going to get in the EBSCO databases. So if I wanted to find Donald Trump in this case, then what I would probably have to do is, instead of all fields, the best thing with JSTOR, if you want it to be about the thing, then the best thing is to do abstract searches and to have that term appear in the abstract. So I'm going to put Donald Trump. I'm actually not going to put the quotation marks around it. And I am going to put immigration again, and again, just in the abstract, because this does not have that, the controlled vocabulary and the subject terms, searching those things in JSTOR, it's just not as powerful. I don't know how else to say it. It's just not as powerful. So you've got those, and we'll search for those and see if they're in the abstract. If they are in the abstract, then that still means there's a good chance that the content is actually about these things. So about Donald Trump and immigration, and content I can access, or everything. I will leave it at content I can access because, quite frankly, again, JSTOR is a dumping ground, and so there's going to be a lot in content I can access. And so you can leave it there and then click Submit Advanced Search. And I said a lot, and then it's only 48 things. But that is because I did the abstract thing. So if I hadn't done that, let's see if it Yeah, it doesn't even save those. So that's another thing that I would say that because as you saw with the EBSCO database with Academic Search Premier, it actually did save my search. When I clicked for a new search, it allowed me to alter the search I already had. This one doesn't. So you saw only 48 things. It's going to be, once I do this, you'll see that you'll see what I mean when I say it's a dumping ground. But because I did see 8,000 things, that's a lot. But because I did it as abstract, which I should do again to kind of narrow my search and not get a whole bunch of junk. So I'll put abstract and abstract. So yeah, doing it this way, it narrowed that down from 8,000 things to 48 things. Okay, so I want you all to know that this is what you're going to need to do in order to kind of filter and not get a whole lot of results within JSTOR. But it works the same way. You can get those results and then click it, and you will get your you can actually download your full text here. You can view your full text here. Okay, I'm actually having some sort of issue with that that's preventing me from viewing the full text. But normally you would be able to view the full text right there. It would just load right there. I don't know what's going on, but it would load right there. You all get the idea. And then if I wanted to, I could just download from here. The citation thing, again, will be wrong about 20% of the time, so don't rely on that. We'll go back to results. And then actually what I'm going to do is I am going to do that other search that got us 8,000 things, and I'm going to show you why really quick. Donald Trump and immigration. And so you have those. Submit advanced search. And the reason I'm showing you this is because this is where JSTOR kind of makes its money. You can go to subjects from here. So what I can do is I can go to search 69 more subjects here. And what you get is you get a breakdown of what types of journals these articles are coming out of. So you've got 8,000 things related to Donald Trump and immigration. But now you can come over here and see what topics the periodicals that these articles are coming from. You can see what topics they are related to. So let's say that you are, we'll go to, there we go, Latin American studies. So let's say that we were looking specifically for things related to Latin American studies in relation to Donald Trump and immigration. What you can do is you can come over here and you can see that of these 8,000 things, 135 of them appear in Latin American studies publications. As you can see, a lot, almost 1,000 come out of law. And you can just click that, and then that will narrow you down, and now you're kind of focused on the things that are dealing with, and there you go, Journal of Latin American Geography, so forth and so on. So that's how you pretty much do this. Let me see if my full text will load this time. I hope it will. No. Okay, so this is probably just a cache issue with me, and that's totally fine. It'll probably do fine on your device that you are using on your computer. So that's enough as far as showing the databases. So again, let me just say a few other things about your paper that is due Sunday before we close out. I do want to say that, and I see that this caused a little bit of confusion within the question and answer area, so I do want to address that really quick. I meant to address that earlier. I do just want to say about that you all are working faster than my classes usually do, and that's a great thing. But like, I think you all might remember that I made a note about how you all had responded to the introductions discussion board prompt way faster than my previous students had. And so it seemed to be a little bit of, I guess what I read, a little bit of disappointment as far as the pertinent readings to the paper that's due this weekend, the pertinent readings being assigned this week. Let me just tell you this, most students don't work ahead the way you all do. So the reason that those appear the way that they appear in week 4 is because usually the students are just now doing their interviews right before the paper is due. and they are just putting their papers together this week before the papers are due. So then they read that material the same week that the papers are due, and then they remember to incorporate the information into their papers, which is the method to the madness. You all, and there's nothing wrong with it, but you all worked ahead largely. You all had your ducks in a row. You worked ahead. You scheduled your interviews in plenty of time, and so because of that, you all actually are in the paper writing phase, it looks like, before students typically are, and so you didn't see those readings before this week until the question was asked in the discussion board area about that. But just know that yes, it makes sense. I'm sure that I'm still going to see it in the teaching evaluations. It didn't make sense that he waited till the week that it was due to assign us the readings for the assignment. Usually that's when people are just getting into it, folks, and that's why they are heavily citing those things that I assigned them to read that week. They're heavily citing those in the paper because it's fresh. They read it that same week because it was assigned that same week, so it was right there. They remembered it. They incorporated it into the paper. So that's basically how that works, but I did just want to offer a little bit of clarification for that. I am going to keep most of the check-in videos at 30 minutes or less, and then you can speed them up, but I do hope you sped this one up. But there was a lot to say as far as these two introductory databases, but I can cover databases in the future in less time. So with that said, let's go ahead and end this. I am Dr. Jace, and I hope that today you learned a few good things about those databases, but Jace database, that is the rhyme that I'm going to work with, and I'm going to leave it there. I'll see you all in the discussion boards and in the check-in video next week.